Breaking news, this is a complete shocker. The Las Vegas Raiders have released their former first-round pick of the 2019 season, Johnathan Abram. And maybe Johnathan Abram has known that something has been up for some time. Early on in the offseason, he had a negative demeanor towards the media.
Prove yourself? Do you feel you have to prove yourself either for them or the future?
No, I don't think about any of that.
You said you don't really feel the pressure, you don't think about it in terms of the contract situation, but you feel confident in yourself for this season?
I mean, why wouldn't I? I mean, I put the work in just like everybody else. So, the confidence comes from getting out there, getting the reps, and constantly just building things, not what the media says.
Your development, like, do you think you're ahead of schedule? Do you think you're where you want to be? So where do you think you are in terms of developing as a player?
I'm right on time. Yeah.
Adam Hill of the Las Vegas Review-Journal has also said that Abram has seemed surly and not happy inside the locker room at all this season. Maybe he knew something was up this year. He's usually one of the more vocal guys on the team. This guy is Mr. Salmon.
Seared salmon or seared salmon?
Salmon.
Salmon.
This is the guy who defended Derek Carr against Stephen A. Smith.
How about that damn Derek Carr? Now, we know he can play.
Wait.
I know it's say damn Derek Carr. I'm not talking about like he can't play. I'm saying I expect him to produce.
Since 2015.
We're almost at 33,000 subscribers. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Raiders content. And this is the guy who rocked number 24 and was looking to try to live up to the hype of Charles Woodson. And so the fact that he only did 2 press conferences this year and the fact that he had that negative attitude towards the media just showed that maybe he knew his time was up with the Las Vegas Raiders. And when you see Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler leading a team that is 2-6, releasing a first-round pick earlier this year in Alex Leatherwood, the right tackle, losing money in this process rather than just seeing if, hey, maybe this guy could work out. And then also playing Josh Jacobs early on in preseason against the Jaguars until Josh Jacobs just absolutely went off and said, hey buddy, don't put me in a meaningless preseason game. And now we have Johnathan Abram being released, and this guy was starting most of the season until these past few weeks against the Saints. You saw his snaps get cut tremendously. And against the Jags, they weren't that high either. And we know there was some interest in Johnathan Abram at the trade deadline. We heard the Raiders were shopping him, but nothing manifested. Perhaps the Raiders got such bad offers that they're willing to just move on and release the guy rather than even go through with the trade before the deadline. And Tashawn Reed of The Athletic confirming not only were the Raiders trying to trade Abram at the trade deadline, but they're trying to trade this guy over summer. So that makes sense with the press conference, awkward demeanor. This dude probably knew something's been up. And look, I know his 5th-year option got declined along with Josh Jacobs, along with Clelin Ferrell. All 3 of the former first-round picks had their 5th-year option declined. So obviously we knew Abram probably wouldn't be part of this team next year, but I always figured, why not just play the contract out this year? Why not just let this guy be a depth piece this year if you're going to end up releasing him anyway? If you're not going to trade him away and get any compensation in that process, why not just go ahead and let him play out this contract this year with this team and see if he could help you get some wins, whether or not he makes an impact on special teams, whether or not he makes an impact in the running game. So what if he's only playing 30 snaps a game? Let this guy make an impact. Let's see if he could turn this into a new contract, because the Raiders now are not going to be switching out Abram for some young guy. There's not some young draft pick sitting here in the background waiting for his opportunity. The Raiders are going to play Duran Harmon, the 31-year-old safety, instead of Johnathan Abram a majority of the time, and obviously Trayvon Merritt get free safety. So to me, okay, I get it. If you had some young talent that you wanted to give some reps instead of this veteran who you're going to move on from anyways, to me, okay, yeah, that makes sense to just go ahead and release Abram. But the fact that we're releasing Abram and having an even older veteran who odds are might not even be with the Raiders next year since he has a 1-year contract, Duran Harmon that is, what is really the point in doing this? And I think it's to send a message to other people on the team. I think that's what Josh McDaniels is doing. Things are really going downhill with the Raiders, and there's no way to ignore it. There's no way to ignore it. You can just act like, hey, it's a first year, but guess what? It's your first year with a new team, Josh McDaniels, and you should be doing better than this. There's teams that are doing better than you right now who it's their first year with their quarterback, their first year with all their players, their first year with all these coaches together, and they're doing much better than the Raiders, and a lot of them have a lot worse rosters than the Raiders. And the Raiders now sit here, according to Pro Football Talk's power rankings, they are 30th right now in the NFL. The Raiders are 30th in power rankings in the NFL, and right below them is the Texans and the Colts. And I don't think you can sit here and look at me in the eyes and say, you 100% believe the Raiders will beat the Colts this upcoming Sunday. And now that you're releasing players players like Johnathan Abram, who is still a locker room presence, who is still somebody who is a part of this team throughout all of training camp this year, and somebody that a lot of the other players on the team probably respect. And you're signaling to people inside the building, hey, this is a rebuild. We're releasing first round picks, even if we don't have younger, great people to replace them. We're just doing it anyways to let people know, hey, this is a fire sale, and Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler are preparing to bring their guys in. We had Jonathan Hankins traded away before the deadline, Alex Leatherwood released before week 1. We did not extend or even give Alec Ingold an opportunity to be on this team. Trading away Yannick Ngakoue, who was a team captain who we're facing this Sunday, by the way. I think he's going to want to get some revenge too, by the way, right? And discarding Trayvon Mullen, your former second-round pick, for absolutely nothing. And now you're getting rid of Abram, and you're going up against a Colts team who's absolutely ridiculous. A Colts team right now that has a head coach who has never coached before above the high school level, and a play caller, a 30-year-old play caller, by the way, who's never called plays in the NFL, and a QB in Sam Ehlinger who's never won a game as a starter in the NFL. So the Raiders are going up against a disaster team right now, and I honestly believe with how low the morale is in the building right now, they could lose this game at home in Vegas. They could lose this ridiculous game against Jeff freaking Saturday because they're getting rid of players like Abram. They're making players not want to run through a wall for you because, like Josh McDaniels says, if you need a big speech in order to get motivated in the NFL, then that's on you. He doesn't got a speech for you. And I really do believe the Raiders can lose to the Colts this week and then end up being, instead of ranked 30, below the Colts, be ranked 32nd in the NFL. And the Raiders have to start looking at themselves. The coaching staff needs to start looking at themselves and saying, hey, if we are not just completely tanking, if we are not just completely rebuilding, getting rid of most of the guys and just keeping a few for next year, then what are we actually doing wrong? Why are we not able to win any of these games? Chandler Jones is going to be here in the future. Max Crosby is going to be here in the future. Renfro at least has one more year. Same with Darren Waller. Devontae Adams obviously is going to be here for a few years. Derek Carr will hopefully be here next year. That's still an open question. But outside of these 5 guys, financially, the Raiders are not fully invested in many other players on this team outside of the 2022 draft class. And so yes, we have these core 5 players, but I think we may see a completely different team around them. And I think the release of Johnathan Abram just signals that. And even though Johnathan Abram wasn't the greatest player for the Las Vegas Raiders, he still put a lot on the line, made some impact plays, battled through injuries in which he had to be out for years at times, and will still be remembered in Raiders history as one of the 3 draft picks in the first round of the 2019 season. Who knows what the future holds for these other draft picks as Clelin Ferrell looks to probably test free agency at the end of the season, or is it quite possible that even Clelin Ferrell could eventually be released as well? Josh Jacobs is putting together what appears to be a Pro Bowl-like season, so can the Raiders really look at themselves and get rid of him after this year, even though he has totally proved it on the field? Let me know what you think this means for the Raiders' future. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.